Greetings, Bat family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Make sure you visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us all over social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support the show, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, a big old thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. Thank you for keeping the lights on, for keeping the pressure off, and making sure the show keeps going. Y'all don't have to do it, but you do it anyway, and it means a lot to us. So big thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. We are part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I am your Bat host, Andy DiGenova. You can find me on Twitter, or on Instagram, or on Letterboxd. Just my name, Andy DiGenova. This episode, we have a very special guest, a nice little chat with Michael Keaton's movement double from Batman from 1989. His name is Carl Newman, and he's wonderful, and I can't wait for you guys to hear our chat with him. And joining me for that chat, and for the whole episode, are my two Bat brothers. We got all three of us back together, the terrible trio, if you will. So first, Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie. Welcome back.
I'm not terrible. Speak for yourself. I'm great.
You're a little terrible, but like in a good way, you know?
All right, fair enough.
Not in a like, oh God, he's terrible. More in like a, you're terrible.
All right, I'll take it.
You know, the way like your grandma would say, oh, you're terrible. That's it.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm going with that. Anyway, welcome back. Happy Sunday morning.
Word.
Another weekend, another Batcast, another cup of coffee. So it's what we do. Anyway, also joining us, he took a day off so he could talk to Carl. That's how committed he is. So I got to send you holiday pay or something. It's Brendan Lowe.
How are you guys?
Hi.
Look, it's always fun to and exciting and kind of special to interview people that are creatively involved with these movies that we just love. So there's no way I was going to miss this.
I know, I feel exactly the same way. I mean, we've already talked to Carl, FYI. But we took a little break, and just on that break, I did it's so cheesy, but I just felt like this sense of gratefulness, of because of this show, the people that we've gotten a chance to talk to and learn from, and it was just such a nice chat with Carl.
Friends with.
Yeah, I just am when it was over, I was just I kind of had the warm fuzzies of oh man, we're so lucky that because of this show, we get to connect with people like Carl, like Richard, like all the other special guests we've had over the years, and I'm like, man, how cool. Who would have guessed over the, years ago, 20 years ago, or the first time I saw Batman, we'd be talking to people like this. It's pretty awesome.
Sure is.
So thanks. Thanks for making the time to do it.
No worries.
But it's good to have both of you guys here. And before we do get to the main event, though, we also got to give one more thank you. And that thank you is to our sponsor, Manscaped. So Manscaped, you guys are kind enough to support us at the show, and it helps that the products at Manscaped are already quality products. So if you haven't yet checked out Manscaped, please go to manscaped.com. Right now here in July, they want to ask, hey, got bush? That's literally what they're saying right now.
Judging by the iTunes charts, everybody has bush right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Zing!
But yeah, if you might have a bush problem if you haven't checked out the products at Manscaped. Take control of your bush. It's important. These products are so good, you're going to be showing pride in your new bush-free yard. It's a fact. You have to keep... I'm sorry. I love these things they send me. So you have the best kept nut sack in the cul-de-sac. Yeah, save big, be the most hygienic version of yourself. Use the discount code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. So go to manscaped.com, peruse their offerings, check out what they got. If nothing else, get yourself the Lawnmower 4.0. I'm telling you, I've been using it for years now. I used it before they ever sponsored the show. I swear by it. I never will use another trimmer again, and I'm not just saying it. So at the very least, do that. Get your bush under control. But if you want just the the sampler platter, they have the performance package, they have the premium package. They have all these different packages where you can sample a bunch of the products, see what you like, see what works for you. Aside from just the lawnmower, we're big fans of the body wash, the shampoo, conditioner, the deodorant. I've been using nothing but the Manscaped deodorant since I got it. It's all great stuff. Try something out, but if you're going to make a purchase, please use the promo code BATSCAPED for that extra 20% off and free shipping. As I've said in the past, if you go there and it's already discounted, still use BATSCAPED. They still give you the extra 20% off because they're just that nice. So you can't beat that. And it's a way for you to get something for yourself, to take care of yourself, have good hygiene, smell nice, be all trimmed up, and you're also supporting Holy BatCast in the process. So save some money and support us so that way they know that, hey, their investment in the show is not for nothing. So we would certainly appreciate that. Anything to add, guys, before we move on about...
I know I've said a number of times on the show before the battery life on these things, and I'm not making this up. I had to charge my trimmer today for the second time ever, and we got those things in November last year.
All right. And
I use it at least every second day.
The best thing that I will offer for it today is in the last week, my wife has told me not once but twice, you smell really good.
Hey.
So, is there a higher compliment you can be paid by your significant other?
No, sir. It does say here on their little release, the copy, it says Kate Bush may be trending at the moment, but your Bush needs some help. So even, there you have it.
Their marketing guys are brilliant.
Yeah.
They got such a good sense of humor.
They have fun with what they do. We like to have fun. We like to have fun here. Anyway, so yes, check out manscaped.com. As Jamie said, you'll smell nice. You'll get compliments. And it's like the right amount of smell. Like Catherine had to borrow my lip balm, and I was like, "No, this is Manscaped. I don't know if it'll work on you because it's for men. It's for men." But she used it, and she goes, "Ooh, that's nice." I'm like, "I know, right? It's perfect." So go to manscaped.com, but please do use BATSCAPED. It's 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code BATSCAPED. It's time you level up. Oh my gosh, you level up from the Amazon to the Amadong with the ultimate bushwhacking tools.
We're all 14-year-olds at heart, aren't we?
Yeah. Some things are just funny. So anyway, there you go. Big shout out to Manscaped. You guys are awesome. Thank you. And do use that promo code BATSCAPED. But now let's get to the main Bat event for the week. Again, we had a chance to chat with Carl Newman, who was the Michael Keaton movement double in Batman 89. And he shares a lot of great stories about making that film and collaborating with everyone on the movie and what he did to bring Batman to life. It was a lot of fun, and we're excited to share it with you. So without further ado, here we go. It is our conversation with Carl Newman, or as he is now known on social media. And where did he get this nickname? You got to listen to find out. Ballet Bat, or Ballet Bat 1989. So here we go. Here's our chat with Carl. All right, here we are. We are with Carl Newman, who was the movement double for Michael Keaton's Batman in Batman. Welcome to Holy BatCast, Carl.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be on this program.
Well, we appreciate you making the time. It's great to connect with you, and we can't wait to talk to you to hear about your experiences working on the film, which is now 33 years old. So happy, slightly belated 33rd anniversary on the film.
Thank you very much. I can't believe where that 33 years has gone.
I hear you.
I think everyone agrees.
Even now.
So first, I guess, let's start just so everybody kind of has a better understanding of what exactly it is you did on the film. Tell us a little bit about what it was to be the movement double for Batman.
Yeah, well, if I give everybody an idea, what had happened initially was that Sean McCabe had come in first for Michael. He was the stunt guy. And I think they just felt that something was still very much lacking from the movements. We know how the costume was, how cumbersome, how hot and restricting it was, but they realized something was very much missing. So I came through a dance agency because I was a professional dancer. I'd done ballet, everything. And so I was brought in to add this elegance and grace and athleticism. So really, I got some of the best iconic shots in the movie. So the very first shot of me landing on the roof when the muggers robbed the family, me landing on that rooftop with the wings outstretched, the cape outstretched, landing very softly, then lowering that, and then you see me then opening the cape out and jumping to then get closer to the muggers, and then Michael picks that sequence up with just a sort of a cape flap. But there was so many fantastic sequences and shots that I was involved with, which I should talk about throughout this program.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I looked it up, before we chatted, and you're right. Some of the most iconic shots of Batman in the film, turns out it was you. And I honestly didn't realize that it was you. I thought a lot of these were Michael. So it's kind of enlightening for some fans like us who've lived with the film for as long as we have to still be learning new things about it. And some of these shots, like we said, are just they're part of cinema history, and it was you working the suit the whole time.
Like the very first shot.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Did you know about the deleted scene as well?
No.
Which was, in the movie where it sort of pans up Gotham Cathedral and then you see the gargoyles. And initially what had happened was it was one of the last shots that I did, and I was crouched, which, might seem easy to some people, but in that suit, it was very, very difficult to have a nice silhouette, a nice shape, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And I would compare that to sort of like a yoga dance spinal stretch, if you like. So I was crouched down on the floor in between two gargoyles, and the idea that Tim wanted me to just move very minimally so that I may just do a slight rotation of the shoulders, the head. And Annie, who was the head of wardrobe, she'd been to Rush's, and she said, "Carl, it just looks amazing, just that whole kind of thing, And when I went to the cast and crew screening, I was just so disappointed to see the animation being used instead of my movement. And there's been a lot of conjecture about this, why, it would have spoiled the reveal if we'd seen Batman then, and so many different kind of reasons. But I honestly felt that using the animation just stood out too much, whereas having that beautiful lighting and mood with Danny Elfman's gorgeous music, it just added. Then it was literally as though Batman was moving from that position to get closer to then do his flying in to the rooftop. But this is, and I think Tim, I do hear that Tim was sadly disappointed not to have used it originally as well. But we're hoping, all as the fans as well, that there will be a cut of this at some point.
Well, what's funny is I remember, I've read the script, the original script, and it is written this way, is that, yes, you pan up, you see the gargoyles, and one of them moves, and it's revealed to be Batman. I just didn't know it was ever shot. I always just assumed that at some point in production, the way it was written became that shot with the animation. So I'm looking here on this Batman wiki page that has a lot of the shots that you're in the film, and at least there is a still shot of what you're describing, which is the first time I've ever seen this photo.
Yes. I mean, it's been wonderful that I, if you like, am on the scene, because in many ways I knew what I did. My name was there in the credits, but for some reason people were just thinking that, for instance, Dave Lee did everything, that they'd forgotten maybe about Sean, but they also didn't realize how much I'd done. I mean, I was involved in a lot of the publicity as well. I also taught the goons how to do mime for the Vinnie Ricorso assassination scene. And I was the only double to have my portrait taken by Herb Ritz, who, as we know, was probably one of the best photographers of his generation, and just the most amazing guy, who I'd also loved prior to my involvement with Batman. I mean, I was a guy that was interested in so many different things. Having done dance, I was into architecture, design, everything. And I would follow a lot of the great American photographers like Bruce Weber, with Calvin Klein and Robert Mapplethorpe. And of course, Herb came into that. So, yeah, I had so many different facets, which kind of gives me even more excitement and thrill, and satisfaction, knowing that I was an all-round kind of guy. I mean, it would have been fantastic just to have done what I did, but also all these add-ons were even better.
That's great. Question for you then, since, speaking of your background, were you already a Batman fan when you got this gig, or was it just a gig and then you ended up falling in love with the character later?
Well, actually, I was a big fan. So I was a fan of the Adam West, Burt Ward series. I loved that as a child. I mean, I loved various things. I loved Star Trek, but yes, I loved Batman, and just that whole thing. The actors were so good. Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, brilliant actors. Just that whole thing. I think I just fantasized about having a red phone, just that Batcave and sliding down the pole and all those things. It was very kitsch, as we know, but as a child, you just loved all that. The Batmobile, for instance, the costumes. I was actually a boy growing up that was into play acting very much anyway, so I used to love all these different things. As a child, I was growing up near to a farm, and I was very influenced by the old farmer there, so I used to dress like him as a sort of a 5-year-old. So all these different influences, but yes, the Batman was a big thing for me. I didn't just come into it as a gig. I it's just a dream come true, having loved the Batman series, and then to get this, it was incredible.
And that's what I was going to ask is, as a fan, when you got a call and it was like, hey, we want you to come be Batman, what was that like?
Oh my word. I was just, it was so surreal in a sense, because I'd done some filming at Pinewood as a dancer. You kind of pride yourself on being able to do a variety of genres of different styles of dance. So I'd been working on, there's a very well-known British actor called Robert Lindsay, and I was doing some ballroom for a film he was doing, and I was at Pinewood, so that was kind of there anyway. But then when I got a call from my agent, right, Carl, you need to go and talk to Derek Cracknell about the new Batman movie at Pinewood Studios. I mean, yes, that was just incredible to get that call. And the amazing thing was that I hadn't heard initially, but then I got that secondary call which said to go back. And that was the key time for me, because that was the time I met the key wardrobe people, the Batsuit Wranglers, as we know, William Todd Jones and Dame Mersh, and of course Vin Burnham, who was very key in sculpting the cowl and who worked very closely with Bob Ringwood. But, getting that call, but then to go and actually put the suit on, the whole regalia, it was just mind-blowing. And they were saying, well, look, just get a feel for the suit. So I was running up and down these corridors at Pinewood Studios thinking, oh my, it's like a child reborn. The cape sort of flowing behind me and just all that fun element. And then I thought, well, I can't really do a great deal down these corridors. But then when they came over to wardrobe and said, right, Carl, we'd like you on the back lot now, excuse me, and they took me in one of those like golf buggies to Gotham City recreated. So it was just unbelievable, that whole thing.
you mentioned, that you're a fan of the 60s show, and people kind of take it for granted now, but, that's what live action Batman looked like. And, until Batman 89 came out. So when you got the call and you first saw the costumes and everything, did you have any idea how different it was going to be? And what was sort of your reaction when you saw, oh, wow, this isn't, grey spandex. This is, the suits, the Batmobile, that sort of thing. Because I'm assuming you wouldn't have really seen what they looked like before getting there.
I had no idea, Brendan. This is the incredible thing, and this is a first. I'm going to tell you now. I've not discussed this on any other podcast or whatever, but I actually got my wires crossed. I actually thought it was a comedy. I don't know where I was coming from.
Well, I mean, it could be forgiven because that's what Batman was until that time.
That's right. I think the thing was that I won't say the agents are vague, but I think. They didn't give me everything, and there was so much going on. I'm such an easygoing guy anyway, and I'm always happy-go-lucky. I'm full of zest of life, as you can probably tell with how I am. But I didn't really have any idea of what this would be like, so I went in quite blind to this sort of interview discussion with Derek, and came away not really any the wiser. But it was then, I think, when I had that secondary call back, and then I was actually sharing digs in a house full of dance students, and one of the guys was a very good illustrator, but very much into the comic thing, and I think he may have given me a little bit more information. But yes, didn't really know. And then, obviously when I was on that back lot, we know how incredible Anton Furst's design is. It just blew my mind seeing that, being, amongst that sort of atmosphere as well. It's thrilling.
That's awesome.
Forgive me if you mentioned this and I missed it, but did you each have your, I'm using air quotes here, your own bat suits, or did you kind of share them amongst a group of people that were doing various motions and stunts, or how did that?
Yeah, well, I believe having read some more of Vin's posts and things, and the difference with the Returns movie was that with the Returns movie, each of the stunt guys, the two, had their own specific suits, as Michael did. But with us on this first one, we all had the one suit, if you like, which was made. There was a number of suits, we know that, but there was the mold. The suit was made for each of us, but the stunt ones would be under much more stress, wouldn't they, because of the rough and tumble and the various things, whereas Michael's would have more sheen and polish and more pristine to an extent, but they were all very much the same. So it was important that we all very much mirrored Michael's height, if you like. There might have been just a little bit of difference, but generally they wanted someone that would fit that sort of type, if you like. I mean, Sean McCabe was quite stocky. I mean, I was muscular in my way, having been a dancer, and I was an athlete as well, a sort of a budding athlete as well as a ballet all-stroke dancer. So you can imagine, you are fit, you've got good musculature, but the thing was, because that suit was made, it did fit all of us. It was absolutely fine.
And how long did it take you to get in and out of the suit each time? Just out of curiosity.
Wow.
You see so many people talk about it over the years for each various iteration of Batman, and it feels to me like the one general thing that they all have in common is that suit being such a pain to get in and out of, or have to go to the restroom while you're wearing it, or any of that. So I'm just curious about your experience in that realm.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be sort of seen as being a clever devil, but I think as dancers, we are very much masochists anyway. We can put up with so much tolerance, and it was like a ritual, if you like, that you had all these sort of undergarments which were like silks, like a cycling short, and then like a silk sort of t-shirt sort of vest underneath. And I loved all that, because that I didn't really even think about the time. I had all these elements there, and we know how the Nike boots and the fins and various things. It took a little while, yes. I mean, the most labor intensive element was then getting the cowl stuck onto the cape. That had to be pulled really tight and glued on. But I was very much unaware of, any duration, if you like, because for me, putting a great costume on was part of the makeup for me, as being a dancer, because when you're doing a show, and, I'd worked on a number of films where I'd done some kind of period dancing or whatever it might be, or on commercials and different things, very big commercials for America. And so the costume thing was fantastic in that sense. And yeah, I think the thing over the time, what I found was, because I was there for 11 weeks, was that there was a lot of chafing going on, especially on the head and around the ears, ripping that cowl off. And I think your body was suffering from also the chafing on the body and costume on and off, and the heat, those kind of things. But, really, I never complained. In fact, one of the Batsuit Wranglers, Day, lovely guy who worked on returns, and said, I can't believe you, Carl. I worked on, I think it was the Timothy Lambert Tarzan movie, and the actors that were playing the apes, and he said they were all sort of complaining. They'd be ripping off their costumes as, it's too hot, And I just tolerated it all. I just never worried. I thought, the worst thing you can do is actually getting yourself worked up, because then it's this mental thing that you start stressing. But I would just breathe in a bit more, just be calm, get into the zone, and that was fine. I think what's amazed a lot of people, and whether we discuss this now, is when I jumped into the Batmobile, because that was a very tiny space to jump into.
And yes, let's hear more about that, since since you're there.
That kind of is very much with the costume, so I thought it was a good lead in, if you like.
Yeah, that's great.
So many people have said, we've sat in that cockpit, it's tiny. How the hell did you jump in the way that you did? But that's me being a perfectionist, and the way I perfected that was like a gymnast on the pommel horse or the parallel bars, where they're sweeping the legs round, and they can do these dismounts or various things. And I thought, well, the way I'll do it, because I was very much into a bit of gymnastic stuff as well, was that I really glued my legs together, and I sort of put my hands on each side of the Batmobile, and then with a motion, I thought speed and everything else was the key. I would whip my legs round and in, and then I would also, because I'm also a drummer as well, so I'm used to having independence with my limbs, so I would kind of whip the cape back with the left hand, so that it get that lovely flow of me going in, and the cape goes, and then you see that, don't you, on that my wiki page, or I've seen it. Someone posted something on the MTV commercial Steal the Batmobile, which shows me jumping into the Batmobile as well. So that's how I perfected those things. I would rehearse and practice them, and then I knew in a sense what my body was doing and what I wanted it to do. So that's what I went for. And it does, it's like being shoehorned into the Batmobile. I just whizzed myself in, and it flowed beautifully. I was so proud of that. I mean, it's a short sequence, yet it's key, isn't it? Because if you jar or judder that cave, it's going to look awful. It's not Batman, is it?
Mm. Yeah, I'm looking at the movement right now, because I'm on your wiki page, and yeah, just the fluidity and the efficiency of getting in there. You make it look very natural, and like Batman has done it 100 times, and he knows exactly where he's going, to the point where you're just in, and Vicky Vale is sort of lingering behind you because she's taking a little more time. But Is that actually Kim Basinger who was crawling in, or did she have a double as well?
That was Cy Holland, so that was Kim's double.
Ah, okay, cool.
It was really funny because my friend, one of my close friends, hadn't seen that, and he said, "My God, you get in so much more efficiently than she does." But I think that I'm such a perfectionist with how I am. I want to do things so right, not to a point of being like it would be like a robot, but what I mean, just that, because I love Grace Kelly, I love Fred Astaire, and I mean they were very much exponents of perfection and making things look. It's a weird thing. It makes it look easy, but it's not easy, is it? Their movements. But yeah. I think that was what I was striving for, was to make that efficiency, that fluidity. Yes, Cy was great, and Kim was fantastic to work with, as was Jack and Michael.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and speaking of just the suit itself, obviously you really worked out. You were very careful about your movements to make sure that you were making it work. I still think that the suit in the original Batman is one of the best looking suits on film. I think it photographs beautifully, but we know it didn't move as easily. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about how you had to practice with it to make it look like it was easy to move in, so that way we get the effects that we do in the film itself.
Before we delve into that, I do have one thing in relation to the Batmobile jump in there. Did they at least let you drive the car for making it look that good? I mean, did they reward you for that?
No, I you know what, Jamie? I just kind of think back now and say, why didn't I persist and say, look, I need to drive this? I think it was just schedules, and there's always that thing, isn't there? Sometimes, whilst you don't think you are stepping on anyone's toes, there's those politics of stunts and everything else where you just kind of go with the flow, and there's lots of things you think, I could have had a photo done with him, or I could have done this and that. But I think I just literally was so patient. I got in the zone. I just did everything as was required, and more, if you like. But there wasn't really an opportunity as such to drive the Batmobile. We were all at different places at different times, and I just went with it, But yes, I wish I could have had that opportunity, but to actually be in it and stand by it, which I did, was thrilling enough for me anyway. So I was happy with that.
I can appreciate that. I don't imagine it's the type of vehicle anybody leaves the keys above the visor for, where you can just kind of take off. So.
No, not really. I mean, wasn't it just the most amazing car, though?
Still hasn't been topped. It's still the ultimate Batmobile, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes,
I just going back
to what you were saying, Andy, about the suit. I think, it's on the wiki page about working with William Todd Jones, which I did. But I think, without being over myself, I think that there's an awareness as a dancer anyway. You've been, I trained for 3 years in all the different styles, and I've done ballet and contemporary before that. And I think it's a very good body awareness anyway that you have. And I think if you're doing other sports as well. And so, yes, once I got that suit on, I may be able to just go to the side, or wasn't required at that moment for filming, so that I would just work with the cape. And one of the best illustrations of that was when I'd landed on the roof, the very first shot that you see Batman, but then Tim asked me to just work with the cape for the jump down. So I was on this sort of platform, if you like, and they slowed that motion down, but the idea was that I opened out the cape and then I jump. And so again, you're getting lovely. It's almost like a port de bras in ballet, the way you sort of get those lovely arm movements. So that's the way I would work with the cape. And other times that came into effect was when I did the Axis Chemical rooftop run. And there was another time where, I mean, people go mad for the way I made the cape move in the bell tower.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell, you know, they were saying we used to practice those movements as kids, you know, you're just blown away when they tell you that. But of course, that's the effect that Batman has, you know, on children, doesn't it? Or young adults, whatever.
Yeah, and it is those cape movements. I mean, honestly, I guess you kind of realize, but as Batman fans growing up with this movie, every shot of Batman in the movie are shots that we would obsess over. So you just mentioned the one where he's standing in front of the Axis chemical sign, and you know, you turn and you flip that cape in such a way, just it looks so great. And oh yeah, as a 10-year-old, I would obsess about that shot. And so yes, that work that you put in 33 years ago is still being appreciated by fans today.
This is what I love. I mean, I just, when I'm hearing all these lovely comments and I mean, the fans are just mind blowing. It just touches me so much because the thing prior to that stop and turn though, Andy, was the fact that, you know, I'd done quite a run into that position, as we know with filming, you know, that gets edited and they say, well, we just want that part, you know, where you sort of stopped and turned. But I had quite a run into that point because that was one of the most hazardous, if not the most hazardous thing I've done, because of all the cables, and it was wet and windy on that rooftop. There was no safety. But, you know, I'd done all that running and then stopped, and the stop had to be so precise, because if I'd have slipped, I would have been dead. You know, it was literally that serious. They hadn't put any safety net for me. So, you know,
the old days.
Filming in the 80s.
You know, that's how we got the first Robin, right? No safety net.
No.
Sorry,
but I sort of work these things out meticulously with how many paces it needs and where I need to stop. And then, yeah, I mean, Peter McDonald, who directed that sequence, he loved it when I did that sort of very theatrical cape turn and went off. So, yeah, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. You just get rid of these things. That's it.
It's fabulous. We love it.
Thank you, sir.
Speaking of Michael Keaton, like working with him, how much did you guys have to work together to coordinate to make sure that your performances were matching up? And did you do any coaching with him in the suit, since you kind of then became very good at making sure the suit read on film? You know, how was that relationship working with him?
Well, people will find this very, very strange. I probably had more interaction with Jack and Kim than I did Michael. I think it was just the way this was handled. I think that the politics were very strange in a sense with this movie, because Michael had known about Sean, and then he knew about me, and that was all fine. But there was never really enough where we could be involved together and discuss things. Whether they were worried about upsetting him, the fact that, you know, at that point he'd got a second double in, and whether they thought, well, we'll just try and work it so that, you know, he's worked with Sean from the beginning, so that's fine. And then with me, and we just did our things in our way. That's so strange, isn't it? Whereas I would have loved to have actually interacted more with Michael and said, well, look, you know, having been a dancer, you know, I could say, well, look, maybe try this, or how do you feel with this? But that never really happened, which I thought was strange. But then, you know, with being with Kim in the Batcave sequence, where, you know, the Batmobile drives her, and she's you know, she's so surprised, and when she arrives there, and I did that sequence getting out of the car, that was, you know, so we were doing so many shots together to cover it all. And then with Jack, I did quite a bit where there's the stalking in the bell tower. But it's really quite weird, isn't it, when you analyze it and think, well, you've got such an amazing movie like this, why wasn't there more collaboration? because it was almost like that, the odd time I would go with Todd, and that was in the earlier part, and he would say, "Oh, look, just try this," and that was fine. But I think I'd got it in my repertoire, if you like, all these things that I could do, was capable of, but they just didn't seem to go straight the way with that. That would come out more, as we know, when I brought my forte to the jumping in the Batmobile. I brought my forte to the lifting up the trapdoor in the bell tower and coming out and then walking around, and then as the goon Lawrence tries to get me and falls through the floorboards. I could bring in all these elements that I had, but it just seems so strange to me now that you've mentioned it, why there wasn't more collaboration. And I think, to me, it just seems very separate. That was the way it was filmed.
I mean, it does makes a certain amount of sense as far as just the efficiency of filming. If it's, if it's you on set with whoever else, that he's off resting or whatever, or maybe you guys were,
Yes.
There are different units, like you said, that Tim Burton didn't even direct the Axis Chemical moment. You said that was
No, that was Peter.
Peter, yeah.
McDonald.
Yeah, Peter McDonald. So that's interesting. So yeah, maybe it was just more of that. But yeah, that's very interesting.
I think what's interesting, Andy, as well, is that, in a sense that we all know that the '89 movie was the gold standard. I mean, that was the first movie of its kind, wasn't it? Like this, which set the precedent, if you like. But then, as we know, when Returns was made and subsequent Batman movies, that they modified the suit more. They brought in all these other elements, if you like, to help the actor. But really, we were very much the starting point of, and maybe that's the way they thought this would work better, was the fact that, look, if we each go off in our own little zones, if you like, and do our things, then that works for us, because they were still finding their way as well, even though Tim and Bob had worn the bat suit to know how it felt and things like that. But they're still finding their way to a greater extent, because it was the first movie.
Yeah, and like you said, in a lot of ways, the first of its kind. It's certainly not the first superhero movie ever, but it was the first one, I think, to this level, with this particular tone and mood, and visually it was a game changer. And I always said that it not only changed superhero movies forever, it changed movies forever. And so to be a part of something this historic is really special. And working with Tim Burton, who was still pretty young, he was a few movies into his career. What was that collaboration like?
Oh, he was just such a lovely guy. He really was. I mean, he was so supportive. And I think when you've got a director like that they bring out even more from you, because they bring out a sort of a naturalness as well. They're giving you the ideas, they know what they want, and they're saying, well, look, try this. But it kind of, because you're so relaxed and you're so in awe of them as well. Once I knew his background and what he'd done before, of course, with Pee-wee and Beetlejuice. But he was just so lovely. He really was, and he was very appreciative when the film wrapped as well, and we were at the wrap party. Yeah, it was just a great chemistry that I think I was aware of these talents from all different areas, and I think that gave me this amazing satisfaction and feeling that, oh wow, he's just someone you so admire, because you could see in him thinking behind the eyes, and this creativity flowing from him. So as we all know, I think whatever you're doing in life, whether you're a musician, even more, won't it? And you want to be striving to better yourself, and if you're working with those kind of people, then they will bring that out of you. And that's how I felt with him, that there was no kind of edge to him. He was very easy. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he was very supportive. So with that, I was lapping it up, really. I was thinking, oh yes, just give me more. And I think that's how I felt with this movie, was that it gave me the opportunity to express Carl Newman even more through what I was about. So it had all the credentials that allowed me to fulfill so many different things of me. And that was what was so brilliant about Tim.
So that's Tim Burton. And I mean this, I'm asking this question respectfully. Did you have anything to do with Peters and Goober, and what were they like? Because you hear lots of stories about how much of a fever dream was it?
Well, this is unbelievable. I was nearly fired before it even started. Can you believe? I mean, well, what it was that I'd just been there only a matter of days, I think, really, and I was just in normal clothing, because initially, until you're required, you could be there and you can be on set, and you're watching some of the action on the monitors and things. And I happened to be with Todd, and we were just watching something, and John Peters came over, and he just, you're part of this movie. And I was like, like a mouse, I was, because I hadn't done anything, I was just literally minding my own business, but just taking it all in. And Todd sort of just said, "Oh, this is Carl. He's just helping out." I mean, that was how scary that was, because I thought, where's this coming from? It was just this power thing, isn't it, that some of these execs have.
Yeah.
And I was a new face. I was just minding my own business, blending in almost to the background, just keeping a low profile. But because I'm calm, I just thought, well, I'm not reactionary. I just let it roll off me like water off a duck's back, and I just didn't say anything, and he moved on. But that was the only time I really ever saw him, and I never saw Peter Goober at all on the set. So it's bizarre, isn't it, that I've only just arrived there, just wanting to give my my sort of credentials and my flair on this movie, and it could have been snatched away from me before it even started. But fortunately, the gods were all lining up, the stars were aligned, and they thought, "No, Carl, you're all right. Don't worry. We'll get you through this."
Well, that's good. Thank goodness.
Exactly.
So I'm just looking at some of these iconic moments that where it's you in the film. So we talked about the big introduction of Batman. We talked about Axis Chemical, getting in and out of the Batmobile. The cathedral at the end, it seems like a lot of that was you walking through those big doors, and you said the trap door moment is one of yours. What about the moment where he's like getting dressed before we go into Act 3? Like, what are some of the other big moments where we can look for you when we rewatch the movie every couple months, as we do?
Yeah, so I'm just rewinding in my head. Yeah, I mean, we must discuss that though, about the mime, because the mime was something that, if you like, as a dancer, you've got all these various styles that you can do. And because I'd followed all the different trends through the club scene, so we knew about the body popping and the b-boying, the break dancing, and then there was robotics and all these different things. And there was also an element of mime going on the dance scene in the clubs as well. And I was very fortunate. When I was living in London, I was training, and then when I finished my training, I would always try and go and see performance as well, because it's always good. It's something you're so interested in. It's good research. But I'd seen Marcel Marceau in performance. Probably like Chaplin. Such as a master of mime. And then when I was training at college, we had a guy that had studied in Paris. So I remembered all these kind of movements. And then when they asked me about helping with this, I thought, well, fantastic, because this is so me. So I took all of the goons into a mirrored studio, And I thought, we've got to make this so over the top, these movements. So like literally putting your hands on the glass and putting your face against it and pulling a rope, and then the walking on the spot or skating or whatever. And so I gave each of the guys something different to do, and then that worked beautifully because it was so over the top. We all know that was great foil then for Jack. To do his bit. So that was brilliant. But yeah, I think in the Batwing crash as well, I it's kind of cutting between me and Michael. So there's pushing the wreckage away, emerging from that Batwing, then going, like you've said, going to the cathedral doors and then pushing them open. And then it was sort of Michael, I think, that goes in and knocks one or two of the pews over. And then it sort of works between him and me going up the stairs. But that trapdoor thing was also a very difficult thing to do because you've got the full costume on. You've got to get that pushed open and then emerge again very elegantly, not sort of all like you crumpled and struggling and awkward, and then you're lowering the lid, and then it's that literally that walking about, and then it's when I do that very theatrical turn and he misses me, and then I carry on. But I think what I found really interesting, and this literally illustrates each stunt guy or movement doubles specialities, is that we know Dave Lee then does the fighting from that point, but Peter McDonald, who was directing that scene, was then wanting to continue with Dave, but Dave couldn't move the way I could move, so he said no, because I remember finishing my bit, and then David can't come in. And then I remember Peter saying, no, right, we better get Carl back in because it just wasn't working for Dave. He didn't have that elegance, like me in the suit. So then I carried on, and it's so difficult to say, but it kind of flips between all three or four of us in that bell tower, and then there's me later on with the stalking where Jack and Vicky are dancing, and then you see me going by. And again, I've said this on other programs and things that or on post that it's not just a case of walking and being some kind of body. You realize that the actor isn't going to be doing those kind of things. They're wanting to be resting and everything else, but even to just do a walk convincingly and have that feel, it takes the concentration and that facility, if you like, because as I've just alluded to there, I mean, Dave Lee's a fantastic martial arts guy, but he couldn't walk the same way that I could walk. So that, I think that just shows you how important these elements were on this first movie, that it really all blended so beautifully together, and we each had our skill sets, and we know Michael was brilliant with what he did, so we all complemented one another in that way. But do you know I did quite a lot of the pickup shots in the Batwing?
Oh no!
So this was something that I did where this was where I met Prince as well, in actual fact. So
awesome!
This is where I'd come in to the particular stage where the Batwing was on hydraulics, absolutely amazing. And then the idea was I'd be just flicking all those switches and buttons and things just to help out. And it was there that I just saw this figure that was this diminutive figure, but he'd come very, very close. And I just thought, this is a guy, I'm so passionate about music as well. And, just sort of one of my heroes. I mean, what a genius, not only the music he did, but how many people he produced and wrote for. And there he was, and I just took the opportunity to try to have a conversation with him. But as I've alluded to probably earlier, I always respected people's privacy and not overstepping things and just going with the flow. And I thought, well, he doesn't he doesn't seem to be wanting to carry out this conversation. So I just left that, because I was literally saying, isn't it so amazing? Because he must have been there for research for his soundtrack. And I realised he didn't want to spend any time, so I respected that and just let that go. But just the mere fact that I was literally so close to him was amazing. And then, of course, he paid me the highest compliment later when one of my pictures was in the CD insert, the booklet.
Oh, which picture was that?
That's the bell tower shot.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I might not have held a conversation, but he's picked one of my pictures.
You made an impression.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to backtrack and think. So there was the Axis Chemical.
Well, what about Axis Chemicals? We talked about you on the roof. And was there any of the part within the factory when Batman is essentially taking out the gangsters one by one or following? There's a shot that's up where Batman is kind of on a catwalk above the gangsters and kind of turns and walks. Is any of the stuff in the factory you?
Sadly not. And a lot of people have said, was that me? And it's this weird thing, how the schedules were and how they decided that, that would be Sean. I mean, I have been told a number of times, by even the Batsuit Wranglers, it's a shame, Carl, you didn't do the sequence where Michael gets out of the Batmobile with Vicky and they run down the alleyway, because that to me looked a little bit jolty, not taken away from Michael, but I think I could have made that much more fluid. But I think it was just a case of they seemed to want to be able to ration this out in a certain way, because quite honestly, I know I could have done some of the scenes that Sean did, coming through the museum and flying, but you just respected the fact that it seemed to, even though the Axis Chemical rooftop would really be stunt territory, they just felt that I was the man for that job. Probably more so because of the running, that they felt I would be more athletic and fluid with that. But sadly, I wish I could have done even more. That sounds greedy, but it doesn't mean it's not meant to sound that way. I think it was just that they were rationed out beforehand, if you like, that Tim must have said, well, look, we'll let Sean do that bit, and then we'll have Carl for that, and so on. That was the way that worked. But I didn't mention also about when the Batmobile stops and I walk out and I'm the one that stops it, and then Michael then does the close-up where he speaks into, so there's all those kind of things going on. There was another scene that I did which was maybe a test for the one of the gadgets now, and it was literally where it came along it was motorized on my utility belt, and I can't think of the name. It's
the grapnel gun.
Not the grapnel gun, the other one, which is literally like the boomerang that's
the batarang.
Batarang. Yeah. I couldn't think of the word. I'm sorry. The batarang. So I did a test with that, which I thought was going into the movie, maybe even being used. But the idea was we'd got John Evans, the special effects supervisor, and we'd got this amazing situation where this batarang just kind of whizzed around the belt, and then I grabbed it, pulled it off, and threw it. And then I was sure that was in the movie, but I don't think it is. So I was doing things like that as well, which was very, very interesting to work with the gadgets. And I did another sequence where they took me to a special location. And I think that's all to do with Axis Chemical as well. And I wasn't sure whether at one time it was me looking up to the helicopter, but that's definitely Michael from a still. But I remember being in the Batmobile and there's these explosions, and then I come out of the Batmobile, and so sometimes you lose the thread of where some of these things have happened, but I certainly know I remember doing that. So there was quite a lot of stuff I did. I mean, I was there for, as I say, for 11 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was a good length of time.
And what about the final shot in the movie?
Oh, sorry,
My
yes.
That's a pretty big
Favorite
one.
shots of Batman of all time.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Brendan. I think it arguably is my favorite shot of Batman in live action.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes, how could I be glossing over that one? That was one of the first shots that I did, I remember.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was literally Tim had got me in the full costume, and I was on this this plinth, if you like, this raised plinth, and it was just amazing because they had this very much the industrial turbine, propeller going, and just standing there and just that's very much a dancer's kind of pose, isn't it? That really beautiful lift through the spine, a very proud chest, there, and I just was amazed and just so excited to do that, because when they tell you how it looks, say, well, that looks amazing, and then you do it, and then you move on to the next one. But yeah, I just thought, wow, that is so incredible. So I get very much the first one and the end one, which is incredible.
Yeah, you bookend the movie.
Yeah,
Bookend the
the
movie.
Carl bookends.
I mean, it just, well, when it does that in the movie and it goes up, and my heart's sort of in my mouth, it's just.
And the score combined with that imagery is just phenomenal.
Thank you. I mean, I just can't get over it now. It's just, you see yourself right there, just doing it all, and just that feeling. It's just amazing. It really is. So yeah, that was a great one to have.
That's iconic. We've said iconic far too often, but there's no better word for it. I mean, you should know I used the GIF of that shot of you as Batman standing there with the bat signal in the background. I've been using it for as long as GIFs have been a thing, and because it is just such a beautiful
I've lost count
shot.
of the amount of times it's been my wallpaper on my computer.
Yeah, so I mean,
that is amazing. Oh, wow.
you are immortal. That shot of Batman will live forever, and that's all you.
Well, I think that's the most amazing thing is that I've been this person that some of the fans have put the most incredible comments out there, and just the fact that I'm now being recognized, because, as I say, my name, I was very, very fortunate that with the credits, I'd had a word with Chris Kenny. I wasn't sort of there begging or anything. I was just saying, it'd be lovely if I could have a credit in this movie. And he said, oh, don't worry, we'll get something for you, Carl. And then they separated me from the stunt guy category and put me down as movement double on my own, which I thought was very, very special. But for so many years, I mean, it's ridiculous, 33 years, there's so many people that didn't know about me or what I did. They, as I say, they assumed it was all Dave Lee because he'd done Returns. And that's really, really sad, because I think credit where credit's due.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to say, well, look, come on, you can be very pleased with yourself that you did that fighting. And as I say, Sean was very pivotal. He was the first guy. He did the driving and those great stunts that he did, and we were all there. But I was overlooked for so many years, and it's just blown people away. So the fact I've been offering signed photos and I've got a range of T-shirts out, I've just met the most beautiful, amazing people on this new journey. I can't tell you. It's like you guys meeting you all and talking with you, the Bat Force radio interview I did, and then with Ben One on superhero stuff you should know. I can't tell you the feeling it gives me inside, because it's so special, to be appreciated and respected, and people are so excited because once they've known more about, all the other stuff I've done in my life as well, and how I did these shots, and a beautiful lady I met on the movie who Jack Nicholson was after, beautiful designer called Miranda, that I dated for 2 years. They're all amazing highlights and chapters of your life, but it's just like this time is so special now that it's all been uncovered about Carl Newman, that you are the ballet bat. That was the name that I mean, how many people get a nickname from Jack Nicholson?
So that's where Ballet Batman came from, or Ballet Bat?
Yeah, that's where that came from.
Wow.
I mean, he put that name, and he put Bat Ballet as well. So when he signed as well my photograph he'd done for me, but yeah, that, and even Michael was calling me that as well. So they're lovely, touching moments, aren't they, where you've got these great actors that, oh, that's Carl. I mean, I would have been quite happy with that. Oh, there's Carl, but it was the ballet bat. That's why I've used that name on my Instagram, on my Facebook, etc. And that's a name I really love because it sums it all up for me. And also as well, what a lot of people didn't realize was that the publicity department, when I was first there, they say, look, Carl, we would really like you to do so much for us. We need to see how a dancer looks in that costume. And I find myself in all these publications all around the world. I managed to see the ones that were local to me in London when I was living there, but I get Time Out or whatever. And then when David Gamble did a couple of shots with me for Life magazine, they're just mind blown because they are such big publications. And yeah, the actor can't be there all the time, as we know, but then as Batman, I mean, it's Carl Newman, it's not Michael. And all these mags, Empire or whatever they are, Vivo, it's just thrilling to know that you've done all of that as well.
I guess a part B to the question I asked before about how, I said when you were first on the set, like this had never been done before, so you didn't really know what you were in for. What are your memories of sitting down and first seeing the completed film? I mean, like we said before, it didn't just change superhero movies, it changed movies. So you being a part of it and getting to sit there and see it for the very first time completed, how did that feel?
Wow. Well, that was just like being a child, and just like you say, seeing something for the first time, but then you just filled with so much euphoria and electricity and you can't take it all in because you're thinking, as we know with the way films are done, it's very quickly intercut with the editing, but to know, I think Miranda as well. I mean, she had said to her friends, "Oh, that's Carl. That is." When I land on the roof, because that was such a big moment. So just seeing that initially was like, wow. It just blew me away. I mean, the excitement, electricity coursing through my veins, and just I think what you love is you've seen and you've been there to make it happen, so you've been fitted with this harness, this crane, this harness around you, and then you're winched up with the guys and flown in. But then when you see it in its entirety with the lighting, with the music, as you can imagine, it was just on another level. It just blows you away. So it was all those emotions. Me being me, I was like, oh no, why did they use the animation? But to see all the other elements, and I think you almost needed to see it again, which I did, as you can imagine, because the first time was with all the guys from the movie, the cast and crew, and you're all just trying to come to grips with it. It's actually there, right in front of your eyes. So yeah, you do need to see it another time or so. But yeah, that initial time, just magnificent, absolutely magnificent.
Well, I gotta say, I've always been a defender of the animated shot in the film, but now that you've told the whole backstory, I'm mad at it for you. I want the original crouching gargoyle shot back. I'm gonna start an online petition, because
Please.
yes, I could only imagine how you felt seeing it. And to what you were talking about prior, it is so great. I think it's so wonderful that you are now getting the recognition for the work that you did on the film. I think that's wonderful. Better late than never, and I'm glad that we could help with that just a little bit, because it's well deserved. I think that's amazing. And you mentioned the promotional photo shoots that you did as well, and I'm looking at some of those pictures. So I think what's so cool is you talked about, oh, you were very just focused on the work, and looking back, you wish you'd have done this or that because, and I don't know, taken more photos or whatever, but the nice thing is because you did these promotional photos, you have like the best pictures of yourself as Batman that anyone could ever ask for.
I'm very lucky, aren't I, really? Because you see, this is really how this all started in a sense, was that I happened to be looking, it was during the initial COVID, the lockdown. And I remember just going on the internet and seeing some of these shots of myself and thinking, hang on a minute. And I was aware obviously of a great number, but then there were certain things that were appearing, and then I was contributing to this wiki site, and then it was like that was the catalyst for much more. But yeah, I think seeing those images, and it's just made such an impact as well, because not being funny. I mean, one guy said, well, you look much better in the cowl than Michael. Well, we've got different kind of jowls anyway. But I just think, for me, that was another part of me to be able to stand there as well in front of a photographer. And I was able to bring other things out of me. Yes, you would be directed by them. They would say certain things. But I think because your body and your repertoire is such. So I remember, like with Herb, Herb loved some of the things I was contributing to that session, where I just sort of put my fingers up, like in almost a prayer position. They seem simple things, but when you see that in context of the suit as well, it brings a great strength and power to the Batman character. And I think that's what a lot of the fans have loved. Is, you see, it's this thing about standing in a suit. You can have a great suit which has that armor or whatever, but if you don't stand right, for me, it doesn't work. So I think, that they were the credentials, my hallmarks that I prided myself on. I was very much raised to have that. My late father always had a great physique, and he always held his shoulders square, and these things sort of live with you, if you like, where you're not sloppy. You just kind of, you have that. And so, yeah, these photographs have just been amazing, really, that have come out, and I'm very lucky to have those.
You say about not being sloppy and stuff. It's like, geez, I'm glad you can't see the way I'm sitting in my chair at the moment.
Oh, bless you.
Well, in reference to the photos that you have there on your wiki site, I was kind of scanning through them. That one of you holding up the flag with, I assume that's Tim Burton kneeling down on top of the.
No, I think that's Anton first.
That's
Is it
That was
Anton?
Anton. That's right, Jamie.
I'm not wearing my glasses, so. But that's a really cool shot. I've never seen that before looking at that page, and I think that's a really super cool shot there.
That's really kind of you. I mean, that pole weighed a ton, by the way, and the wind was very heavy. I'm not sort of making any excuses, but it wasn't the easiest session. Normally, when you do a photographic session, you think, well, it's nice. You've got a lovely backdrop. You've got lovely props to use. But then if someone's given you a pole that weighs a ton, it's windy. But that again is the commitment that you have, as a dancer or performer, that you think, well, okay, I'll do that. But thank you so much. And one of the fans had another angle of that, which I've got somewhere as well, which was very interesting. And then a wonderful guy that did a tribute portrait to me, a guy called Dennis Baptiste, fantastic artist. He sent me a cutting from a newspaper that he had with the session with Bob, where we're in a sort of a concocted back cave with someone who was pretending to be Jack, and I'm there with Bob Ringwood emerging through. But it's just fantastic when you see those things. But I'm thrilled you love that one, Jamie. That's great. Thank you.
What's crazy is looking at these photos, it kind of shook loose memories of, when this movie came out, it was my world. I bought every magazine that had a bat signal on it and looked at every photo. And I swear, I saw some of these photos back then, and I'm pretty sure I was like, that's not Michael Keaton. Okay, well, and just kind of went on with my life. But I remember some of these promotional photos where I could tell it wasn't Michael, and now, 33 years later, mystery solved. It was you the whole time.
No, that's happened to a number of people that have said that. They had that inkling there. That doesn't look like Michael, and then it's been backed up now, which is so wonderful to be able to shed the light, and say. And what I'd really love to do is get over to America and do a Q&A with the fans, find a way. I'm trying to work on a way of getting over, because there's more stories and things I'd love to share, and if they want to ask me things, it would be a wonderful opportunity. So that's the kind of the next phase I'd like to do, is to be able to do more of this, if you like, and share that.
I'll just say, Australia has conventions as well.
Oh yes. Well, sorry, Brent, I wasn't being.
Come and do Supernova here. Make sure you do the Brisbane one.
I would love to. Honestly, I would really love to do that. I mean, the travel would be fantastic, and to be with those people, so that's what I'd love to look toward next anyway. That I think what's made it so fantastic is Michael now doing these new films, Batgirl and The Flash, as we know, and it's created so much more. And we're sort of coursing on this wonderful energy and excitement, aren't we?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier that you're like, you're putting out signed photos and stuff. One of these photos, the one of you standing behind the Batmobile, it's the rear end of the Batmobile, and you're standing right in front of it. It's oh my God, it's beautiful. So if I were to want a signed copy of that, how would I go about getting one of those?
Yeah, well, just send me a message.
I will send you a message.
Something out. Yeah, just send me a message. And same with anyone who wants them. They've been going all over the world. It's so incredible. Some people are buying 3 or 2 or whatever. It's just fantastic. It's just lovely to be able to do that, and they are images I'm very proud of. I've got some now with a little Ballybat logo on as well, and I think the most popular has been the bell tower one. Not that makes any difference, but I've found that as trends are, that's one of the most popular without question.
That's another great one. It can truly be said, there's a bat in my belfry, and you do the spin. That's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, all right. Well, you got yourself another customer. It's going right here on my wall of fame in my own bat cave. So.
Oh, thank you, Andy. That's wonderful to hear.
So, stepping away from Batman for just 1 second, I looked up your IMDb page, and your I have a strange fascination with martial arts movies going back to when I was a young kid, and I don't have any specific memories of this one. But knowing how my father and I were renting videos, all the way up until I was probably a sophomore in high school, you were in a film called The Ninja Mission.
Well, the reality is I wasn't. I don't know how they've created that one.
Okay.
No, I don't know how they've got that information there. And I must get them to take that down, because the other credits are correct. I did do those, but I'm just bemused where that's come from. So
All right, forget I said anything.
That will answer that one in an instance.
If you can't trust IMDb, who can you trust?
No, that is just so unbelievable, isn't it? No, I don't know where they've got that one from. But the other credits are definitely legit. They are true. I worked on those ones.
Are there any that are missing that you worked on in there?
Well, there's lots of stuff, really. I mean, the lovely story for everyone is that after Batman, the late Peter MacDonald, he'd had a word with me, and it was quite an unusual request in a way, but the John Goodman King Ralph movie, which had a stellar cast, really, Peter O'Toole, John Hurt, etc. They wanted somebody that could lead this incredible procession out, walking backwards. And again, like Batman, people just don't realize that just walking backwards and making it look fluid and unbelievable, and you're not turning every 2 seconds to look where you are. So he said, look, Carl, I need you to do this sequence. Have you got a dancing friend who could sort of mirror you? And there was a guy that I'd worked with quite a lot, and so I thought, it's similar height, I thought, well, he'd be perfect. And we did quite a bit of filming on that one, and I just remember making Jolie Richardson really laugh, because I'm a bit of a comedian when I'm around, if the time's right. And I was fooling around in some way, but that was a great thing to do, and working around some very interesting areas which were replicating the palace as well, if you like, St James and Buckingham Palace. That was really interesting. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been put down, and you just get absorbed in the whole thing. When you're working, you're going from various projects. I mean, it's bemused a lot of people why I didn't get returns, and there's a very interesting story there, which is when I went to the wrap party, which is a very famous, what was a nightclub in London called Limelight, and Tim Burton had made a really lovely effort and compliment to me. He was there, and he said, I'd really like to thank you for your wonderful contribution on this movie. Have you ever worked in America? And I said, I haven't. And just at that moment, somebody interrupted the conversation, and it was lost. And you just don't realize at that time, because you're caught up in the excitement and everything else. And then he'd gone. But I just thought, as we all did, that the sequel would be made at Pinewood, because so much money was spent on that. And then I was hearing different things through, because I was great friends with all of the wardrobe people. I would be going out to certain events with them, and we stayed good friends. And so I was kept in the loop to a degree, but then you get dragged, from pillar to post with other jobs and things. And before I knew it, I think it had all been decided about the sequel. But and I think the reason Dave Lee had got it was he was very much in America anyway, doing other stuff. But then fans have said it does lack something as well, which is nice of them to say that. But it's just weird how these things can map out sometimes, that you automatically think you would do a sequel. I also went up for another couple of big movies. I went up for something in Judge Dredd, met Danny Cannon, the director there. And then I went up for two different things, a cameo and a dancing thing in Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick. And there's all these things, and it's just weird how that can map out, because you can be so right. And what I was finding when I was going to auditions and castings after Batman was, believe it or not, some of these directors just didn't believe me. If I was, because there'd be situations they'd say, well, what have you just worked on? And you'd talk to them, and you were not bragging, you were just saying it how it was. And they just, honestly, they looked at me dumbfounded, like I just, made it all up. And that was disappointing. But then I was working steadily. I was doing a variety of different things. I was doing a music project as well. And so you just, like I say, if I could be remembered, I would have always wanted to have done the first one anyway, because that was so iconic. And it had all those, it had Danny Elfman, it had Prince, it had Jack. So really, that was the number one for me. And I've always been less is more, better to have had the quality rather than the quantity, let's say. I mean, I know Returns was excellent anyway. And I love Michelle Pfeiffer, so I'd love to work with her. But you're just grateful for what you've done, and I've always lived for today and not tomorrow, and had that zest. So I've always enjoyed myself, and maybe things would have been different if I'd done Returns. You just don't know, do you?
Yeah. You got one up on Sean Young, that's for sure.
That's true.
Oh man,
too soon, Brandon. Too soon.
And Sean Young and I had a bit of a moment, really, isn't it weird? Because I was doing a series of commercials for, well, she's a dame now, but Julie Walters is one of our national treasures in this country. She's a terrific actress and such a lovely person. And I'd filmed a series of commercials with her at Shepperton Studios, and I had a break in between filming, and I'd just gone, I think, with the makeup artist. We'd just gone to have a look on one of the other sets, and it was A Kiss Before Dying, I believe, with Matt Dillon and Sean Young, and yeah, we locked eyes for a moment.
I mean, the wonderful thing though is that your place in Batman history has been cemented, and it's only more so the more people learn about you and the work that you did. And looking back at Batman on film, we're looking at 12 live action films now where Batman is featured, and still talking about some of the best Batman moments on film. You get to lay claim to that, and I think that is probably a wonderful feeling. Again, it's your immortality on film. So knowing that Batman will live forever, and that this film will live forever, looking back at it, and that you got to bring this iconic character to life in a lot of first ways that we've ever seen him. How does that feel, knowing that is going to be appreciated as long as films are around?
It really has given me such an immense sense of pride, because we know how things are in life, don't we? You can look at things, and I mean, what I don't like is mediocrity in the world, and I find that, especially in this country, it could be anywhere, but there's a lot of non-talent around, and I can't understand that. And I mean, I've always admired so many wonderful people over many years. I was brought up to admire the great American songbook and the Hollywood movies, and the great British performers as well that we have here, all the greats, So I've always had this philosophy where, just if you've got some quality in your life that can just give you that satisfaction, and I was a dancer, if you like, and I didn't fit into a clique of certain dance groups or trends, if you like, and there was a lot of work that tended to go over, well, not say over my head. I missed out. They should have had me. There was a lot of disappointments, real big jobs I missed out on. And I always believe, your time comes. I was very patient, dedicated. So really, this movie will stand as being always my proudest. And it just, for me, it was as though, without being, so spiritual or whatever, I just feel that someone had said, this is for Carl because he's got all these elements. So the fact he's done so much sport and athletics, but the dance as well, it's for him. And so that does give me so much immense pride and satisfaction. And also just, knowing that you are a part of cinematic history, that can never be taken away from you. So that can wipe away so many disappointments, really, and also subsequent disappointments, that can happen in life. Because I think, believe it, well, you would know this, I'm sure, but Adam West seemed to be fated with things after the Batman series, that he was a very good actor, and I think there was a lot of things he wanted to do, but he didn't get to do, and it seems so wrong. But really, to answer that, I would say that it's, I can't tell you what it does for me. I mean, it just gives me so much pride, and I think it made my family very, more than happy, proud and everything to know that, their son from what was a small little village in Leicestershire, had gone over to Pinewood and done these incredible things and made a major contribution to that movie, because as we know, it all needed to come together. And we know that those other elements were, but what I was able to do was unique, and it was very much kind of like my DNA, in a sense, that I could use my attributes and my skill set and say, well, okay, that can never be taken away because that's me, that's there, and that's amazing. You can imagine how that makes you feel.
Yeah, it is amazing, and congratulations, even though it was 33 years ago, but congratulations on the continued attention, and again, just this place in Batman history. It's really wonderful, and so glad that the word is getting out about the amazing work that you did. And as fans, we thank you for the work that you put in to bring our favorite character to life in a way we had never seen before, and to make him move in even using that clunky costume, to make him move elegantly and powerfully, and as we always wanted to see Batman move in a movie. So yeah, I mean, our thanks to you for the work that you put in to bring him to life.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me, really does. And I say it's just been amazing to have this opportunity to be with you and talk now. And I can't wait to hear it, and hear more from it. It'll be wonderful.
I would love it if you could tell our listeners at home where they can find you. You mentioned your Instagram page. I found you on Twitter. I need to follow your Instagram as well.
Yes, so it's all on under the BallyBat title, if you like. I mean, I'm on Facebook. I think there's much more of a presence on the Instagram, BallyBat 1989, and people can message me as I was saying to earlier, just meeting the most incredible people. I had this tribute portrait done, and then lo and behold, this amazing graphic designer, started donating these images to me, which I subsequently then, because he was doing it with his t-shirt store, but I'm only a small scale operation, and I just do it from my home. But these shirts that I've got, I'm so proud of them because they're like artworks in themselves, and people have said, well, we can't even see anything as good as that in the stores. There's been these images which have been based on the Herb Ritts, some of them on the Herb Ritts photo shoot, but then they've been stylized in a sort of an urban way, a different way, and I've put them on t-shirts, and I'm just so proud of them because, again, I'm very much a perfectionist. I don't want anyone to have anything that wouldn't be right. But I mean, he's done the most amazing Uncle Sam one, where it's that classic line, I want you to tell all your friends about me, and it's me with a Herbert sort of face with the full Batman costume pointing out. So if anyone's interested in any of those, they'll be there, or they can just message me. But it's just something I'm having some fun with, if you like. It's just great when you hear back from the fans and they're framing the shots, which is lovely. And you can imagine I've got a few frames in my place, but it's just lovely to have the fans giving you that feedback and that excitement, that they're just cherishing these images, and the fact that they've got my autograph on there. It's lovely, because we're all influenced by things, and I've loved it when I've been to see my favorite musicians play, and then they've signed something for me or whatever. If it's memorable in your life, and I always remember that thing where if you don't do things now, we don't think negatively, but we always think you must cherish the moment, grasp the opportunity now, and cherish it. So I've just loved it when I've heard back from people about these photographs and T-shirts and things.
That's great.
So, before we wrap everything up, I just want to point out, earlier on in this discussion, you mentioned, credit where credit due, and I've been a fan of movies since I was a little kid, but it's only been very recently that I've started getting more into the depths of the films and the processes and filmmaking. And what I'm finding is so many things that I love about these movies, the characters as portrayed in movies, that so many people take for granted and just automatically, connect with the headline actor, if you will. And that's not where all the credit goes. We've had discussions with Richard Citrone, who worked on Batman v Superman and Justice League in the double capacity for Ben Affleck in the Bat costume. And I actually did a thing on Twitter a couple months back where I did like my Mount Rushmore of favorite Batman scenes in movies. And looking back on that now, I realized the 4 that I picked, it's very unlikely that the headlining actor is in any of these particular shots. In the case of The Dark Knight, I have the scene of Batman landing on the rooftop of that van and kind of crushing down the window and shattering the glass. In Batman v Superman, I know it's a shot of Richard Citrone fighting in the warehouse now known as the Martha Rescue. And I have the shot of you making your descent on that rooftop at the beginning of Batman '89. I kind of figured that was probably the only one that was Keaton, and it turns out it's not. It's you. So for making that memory for me in what I consider to be one of the greatest Batman moments in cinema history, my heartfelt thanks to you. I think these are wonderful moments, and I love getting the education and awareness out there that, hey, Michael Keaton did a great job with this film, but he's not the only one that brought this to life. There's a lot more to it, and you are obviously a major contributor to that. So thank you very much for that.
I'm very touched by that, Jamie. Thank you very much as well. I think it's a very good point there, because there are people that will say, well, that's the stuntman's job, that's their job. But I think it's nice when we can credit and acknowledge people. We all love a boost in life, don't we, with whatever, and I've always been someone that has admired that, in people, that not the actor or the actress can do everything, and if somebody can bring in a wonderful flair and enhance that so much more, then why wouldn't a little nod to them be very, very hard? And we all know that's our job, and I knew that it would be a very physical, challenging job, and we knew that it would be lovely when we could have a rest afterwards, if you like, that you need to give your body time again and recharge and rejuvenate. But no, I think it shouldn't all go solely to the actor, and I think in a way that was why it was a shame on this first movie that we didn't have a little bit more time with one another, only just to, because I remember when I went to a party, which Andy may have seen, you may have all seen on the wiki, there was some photos anyway of it was a collaboration with Bob Ringwood's birthday and not American Thanksgiving or something else, but anyway, there was a time when I was there, and I said to Jack Nicholson's dresser, I'd really love to just say hello to Jack, just to break the ice, so to speak. And I did it very efficiently and in the right etiquette, if you like, not to steam in there and do it, but do it the right protocol. And he introduced me, and I just let him speak, and I didn't overspeak. I just did the right thing. But it's just a shame. We're all human beings. We should be able to just have a little bit of time to know one another, or just collaborate. And I think this is where this kind of comes from, that if it was me that was the actor, then it'd be the first thing I'd want to do is say, thank these wonderful stunt guys or people for helping me, because unless you're someone like Tom Cruise or someone that can do all these things yourself, I mean, there's not many around, is there, that can do all of this.
There's Tom Cruise, there's Jackie Chan, and then there's everyone else.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's lovely that we can do that, because we all sing from the same hymn sheet, don't we? We're all helping one another, and that's the beautiful thing. So no, I think that's a very good point, Jamie, there, and I appreciate what you said.
That's wonderful, and I do want to be respectful of your time. Brendan, do you want to? I mean, Jamie just said his piece. We've told Carl how wonderful he is. Brendan, would you like to also tell Carl how much you love him, and then we can send him on his day.
Well, I was going to say I also did the Mount Rushmore of Batman moments on film a little while ago, and did
I miss this? I feel like I missed this.
Well, the two of us kind of bounced off each other with it, because my choice for 89 was the rooftop dissension, and his choice was the closing shot of him standing there looking at
the climax shot. So
for me, it'd be the closing shot. Yep. All right.
The
Sorry.
bookend shots.
Yeah. The Carl bookends.
I mean, I can't really add anything to what these guys have said. I mean, it's funny sitting here, you're hearing about all these promotional shots and everything, and just to my right, I've got a life-size cutout of Keaton in the 89 Batsuit, and it is Keaton because you don't have his lips. That's the only thing that gives it away. That it is Keaton.
If it wasn't for those lips, I would be fooled by most of these
right?
these pictures. Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of said the same thing to when we chatted to Richard Citrone, is that, I mean, yeah, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, whoever, like, they're the actor who gets the accolades and everything, but I think in some ways more than the actor themselves, it's people like you, as I meet more of you and everything, you are Batman, more than them in some ways, because you're the guys doing the Batman stuff, like,
yes.
I'm not to take anything away from the actors, what I mean, like, you guys are the ones that are propping them up, making them look like Batman. That's you, and
yes.
That can't be underestimated, I don't think.
Well, that's very kind. No, I think you do. You add that physicality, don't you? That's athleticism, and because, as we know, not all actors can be all of that, but with a superhero, even more so, you want all of those elements, don't you? So no, I really appreciate that, and I think it is just nice, because there are those people that will cut Michael right down and say, well, he wasn't in it, or it was mostly Bruce Wayne or whatever. But no credit. I mean, he's terrific, and he made that film, but it was lovely that we could all add our special skill sets and bring it all together. But yes, I think it's just lovely to have a nod, to just say, and people have said that you are Batman. So I mean, what more could you wish for, really? And to have had the shot of me in the suit as well, it's like a double whammy, isn't it? Because you're in the movie, but then you've got some stills which you're so proud of. And that stays with you forever, doesn't it? Able to see that and know that was you, like that bell tower one, or the bat signal, or by the Batmobile, whatever. it's tangible, isn't it? You can see it there, and you're just so proud because, yeah, you tell my lady Rachel, I mean, you know, bless her, she'll say, well, you're far better looking than Michael, but no, that's Michael, you know, but you know, but no, he's got the lips, hasn't he? And that's you know, he stands out. But no, we all add to it, and you know, it was a great collaboration, that was.
Awesome. That's wonderful. I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Carl, thank you again so much for all the work that you've done, and for taking the time to talk to us today. It's been really, really fun. I know that we could just listen to you all day, and we've done a pretty good job, which is great. But it's been truly our pleasure to have you on. And again, you know, you now have a cemented place in Batman history, and you should be very proud. And it's really truly amazing and wonderful. So it's been great. Everybody out there listening, go give Carl a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, your social media platform of choice, Ballet Bat 1989. But Carl, this has been wonderful.
I've just got to thank you all as well, to Jamie, to Brendan, to you, Andy. Thank you so much for having me on this show. It's been absolutely wonderful to contribute and speak to you. It really has. And I can't wait to hear more from it as well.
Great. It'll be out there before you know it. And you, again, be looking out for a message in just a few minutes, because I want a picture. Darn it, I want it on the wall.
We'll get that sorted. I promise.
We will. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, yeah. Well, thank you, Carl. Keep the bat signal shining, my friend.
I will indeed. Pleasure. And you all take care, won't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks,
same to you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Carl.
a lot. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right. That was so fun. He was such a sweet guy, and honestly, like, I feel bad for using up so much of his time on the weekend, but he didn't seem to mind, and we just loved hearing those stories, and it was just such a nice conversation. What a sweetheart of a guy, and very cool that he made the time to talk to us today. So thanks again to Carl, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation we had with him.
Yeah, I hope we can get him on again sometime, because that was a delightful conversation, and obviously that cat's packed with stories. So great to talk to him, and really glad I made the effort to get up early this morning and be a part of that.
Worth it. No regrets. And
I mean, all the Batman stuff was great, but my takeaway from it, and he kind of just slipped it in there, was man, he cockblocked Jack Nicholson.
I mean, if you're going to put something impressive on your resume that may not be like right up at the top, I mean,
I'm talking like 80, like Nicholson in his prime Nicholson, not like, you know, not like late 90s Nicholson. This is, you know, that's a pretty good, that's a good,
it's a good claim to fame. Yeah, good claim to fame. I will say,
that's not an endorsement for every man to put his son into a dance class, which, by the way, I have. My son has dance training as well as my daughters. I mean, there's nothing non-masculine about that, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Even Bruce Lee was a dance champion in Hong Kong before he ever became a martial arts superstar. There's your tidbit for the day.
Well, I will say this, with all due respect, is, you know, I went and followed him on Instagram, and there's a lot more content on Carl's Instagram than there is on his Twitter, and he has a lot of photos of himself circa 1989. I mean, and he's a very handsome man now, but yeah, when you see the pictures of him when he was Batman, I'm like, oh, yeah, I get it. Nicholson's Nicholson, but I mean, Carl's a good looking dude. So way to go, Carl. Our hats are off to you. Our calls are off to you. No, it was really, really cool, really fun. And yeah, man, I can't get enough talking about these movies anyway, and so to hear it from the Bat's mouth is really cool. But we're not ready to say goodbye just yet, because as always, we got to check in with you fine feathered finks and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, here. The first message is from Dave Chambers. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast. I'm just popping in and saying, Andy, I totally get it about starting a new toy collection. If you start with one figure, then you just start down the path of getting them all. I recently got into the Batman 66 line from McFarlane and collecting the Batmobiles from Jada Toys. The ones that come with the little mini Batman with each car. They're so much fun. I will say, if you have the room, the NECA quarter scale Batman figures are some of the best on the market. The 66 Batman and Robin are gorgeous, as are the other film figures, and they just announced that they're releasing Robin from 66, so that must mean West is not far off. The good news for Batman collectors is that there's always new items to find. So here's a question. What's your favorite Batman collectible in your collection, and what is your holy grail? Happy Batman collecting, Dave Chambers." Thanks, Dave. On the last episode, me and Jamie were talking about action figures. We were talking about the Black Adam figures that were coming out, and then we were talking about the next wave of the McFarlane Batman 66 figures. And I shared, I haven't started the McFarlane Batman 66 figures because they're like potato chips. You can't have just one. And so I'm trying to not do that, because then I will get them all and I do not have the space. And so, Dave, I'm glad you feel my pain, but it sounds like you've already jumped in, and I respect that. But I appreciate it. I do have the NECA Batman 89 Batman, and it was worth it. He's beautiful. He's amazing. I do also want the NECA Penguin and Catwoman, because they're very cool too, but I have not gotten them yet. But question, I think
is that NECA Batman? Is that Keaton or is that Carl?
Now it could be either. The lips say Keaton, but the stance says Carl.
Right on.
So anyway, we've talked about some of our favorite collectibles in the past, but we can talk about it again. And then, what is your holy grail collectible? What would you want if you could have a blank check of any Batman piece of memorabilia? Jamie? Other
than an actual Batmobile?
I mean, that's a good answer. Can't argue with that.
I mean,
again, space is an issue. I don't know where I'd put it, but I'd find a way.
I got a 3-car garage and only 2 cars. I'm good. We can do those.
Sweet.
Really, seriously, for me though, I have this weird fascination, and it's going to sound strange because I literally have like none, but like props that are actually used in movies or TV shows.
Yeah.
So like any prop that I could get from a Batman movie, I think, even something from a Batman movie that I'm not crazy about, like Batman and Robin, I just think would be a cool thing to have, because not only does it make a conversation piece in that, the neighbor down the street doesn't have one, it's just, you own a piece of that history. To me, that just feels like a very unique and special thing. And even though I don't have any, and I don't even want to, name a specific other than a Batmobile, just having any like screen used prop from one of the movies, I think would be just amazing.
Yeah.
Just making a note here. Try and find a screen used coat hanger from Batman Returns for Jamie.
Perfect. I'll chip in on that one. Yep.
If it's screen used, I'll put it right up here on the mantle with the rest of the premium stuff. I ain't even gonna lie.
You flush it down your toilet, I put it on my mantle. What about you, Brendan? A holy grail Bat collectible?
I mean, it's got to be a Batmobile.
Yeah, yeah.
And the 89 one at that. I want to stand next to it and wave a big friggin' flagpole. After that conversation.
Yeah.
I will just
I have enough pictures of you handling your poles. I don't need another.
I'm just going to leave that alone. I do have the NECA Batman 66, the Adam West one, which the quarter scale, and it is gorgeous. I got that given to me as a gift a few years ago. It's lovely. But yeah, like I think I've said it before. Like some of my favorites, like my Val Kilmer signed Ultimate Batman from '95, my Michael Keaton life-size cutout, just to name two of them. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be a Batmobile. That's the holy grail, I think, of every Batman fan.
And which one?
89. I said that before. It's got to be 89.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Well, see, I think in order of fairness, we all want a Batmobile, right? So
we each get a different one.
Andy is, the head of the show, the godfather of Holy BatCast. So I think he should get 89. Brendan, I think you should get Returns, and I'll take 66.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the holy grail. I've so much cool Batman stuff. Like I have a lot of favorites. I love a lot of the statues I have. I think I've said in the past, the WB store Batman and Robin statues I just think are so beautiful. And then last year I was able to get the Riddler from that same line. I found it in a secondhand shop and I bought him, and I regret nothing because he's so great. They're all really cool. As far as Holy Grail goes, just to be a little different, other than the Batmobile, because I agree. I saw something online, and I can't remember if it was fan made or if it was actually for sale, but it was a collection of Batarangs, one from every version of Batman. So it was like the 66 Batarang, the 89 Batarang, the Batman Forever Batarang, and went all the way through to present day. I was like, that's a really cool piece. Is like to have them all in one large shadow box and then Batarangs over the years of every version. I think it's cool because like they're small enough that it's feasible, and yet you're representing just like all of Batman's history in the process.
That does sound pretty happening. I like that.
Just quickly too, the conversation you guys did have about action figures and stuff last week. Listening to it, I just have to say, I hope you guys appreciate what your targets are like over there, because
I do.
Oh my God! Like I spent literally hours in the one in Hawaii back in 2019, and hearing you guys talk about just the amount of cool shit that you can get there. Oh my God! Like you would be amazed at what ours are like if you ever came over here to visit, but not for the same reason that I was amazed when I went over there.
I do appreciate it. And what's crazy, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people listening can relate to this, is when you're a kid and your parents take you to Target or Walmart, or at the time Kmart, it was always like, can we go look in the toy aisle? And I'm 43 years old, and when I go to Target, I still always have to look in the toy aisle.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, and fortunately, my wife is like, yeah, let's go look in the toy aisle. So pretty lucky.
And we still have Kmart over here.
I don't know if there are any remaining, but it's sad because I grew up with Kmart, so it does make me sad that
Kmart's a big thing over here.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad it lives.
Kmart and Target are kind of along the same lines as far as stores and whatnot.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I did have a toy collecting flashback. I don't collect toys anymore because collectors have just straight up ruined that side of it for me, because when people are literally flipping the card around on a Star Wars figure and looking at the serial number and seeing if it ends in .0 or .1,
oh God,
and that makes a difference in the value of the figure, I'm done. I'm just out. But anyway, my daughter had a friend over the other day, and my daughters and their friends are like obsessed with Stranger Things. It's crazy how into this they are. And we had to go to Walmart because they're hunting for Funko Pops, all this stuff. So, I mean, they were just like shredding the Funko Pop aisle looking for Eddie, and they couldn't find it. And they were just like mad about it. I'm just like, yeah, I remember these days.
Oh God, I know. It was always so fun though. Like I loved toy hunting. You know, I had such a good time with it, and I still do it to an extent, but now I do try to go, do I really need this? You know, just because of space. Although I just saw online on our bathroom break that apparently the new Castle Grayskull is 70% off at Target, so I might be going to Target later.
Yeah, that was a great playset back in the day. Great one.
All right, let's move forward. Next one is from Shaun of the Dead. That's the only name I got is Shaun of the Dead. It says, hey Andy, thanks for creating one of my favorite podcasts and a weekly listen. You, Jamie, and Brendan have brought me endless joy through my grueling 12-hour shifts at work, and I can't thank you guys enough. I have listened through the entire back catalog, and now I'm fully caught up. If I may make a suggestion, although I know none of you have played the entire Arkham game series, I believe it's one of the best representations of Batman and his mythos. Maybe one day you could get on YouTube and watch the movie versions of the games, which consists of all the cutscenes and important dialogue. I really think you guys would enjoy it, and if my dreams come true, I would even become a $50 Patreon just to be a part of that episode. It would be an amazing experience for me. All in all, I hope you guys consider it, but if not, just keep being the Battastic podcasters you are. P.S. Raiders suck. Go Chiefs. I still love you though, Jamie. You're my favorite. Just don't tell the other guys. Okay.
I'm gonna act like I didn't hear that last part. Just right. No, no Chiefs, No.
I mean, you're his favorite, so that's not
my
bad,
my
right?
son, Patrick Mahomes, is the quarterback for the Chiefs, and my son right now is sporting a haircut that looks a lot like his. And every time I see him, I feel like strangling him. It's terrible, terrible.
So anyway, thank you, Sean, if that is your real name. But that is something I've always meant to do, is because I've not played the games. I was like, oh, I should watch it on YouTube. But there's this little part of me that thinks that someday I will make the time to play the game. And so I think I just need to be realistic with myself and go, that's probably never going to happen. Just watch the damn thing. Because for the reasons you say, is I hear how great it is. I believe it. I played a little bit of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I did play a little bit of both of those. So I would like to see how it all plays out. I just, I need to commit the time, but appreciate it.
I will say I tried doing, because I've heard the same thing about the Ghostbusters game. And I tried watching that and I couldn't, it just felt, I don't know. Yeah. I couldn't get into it, even just watching it like that.
It's not the same, but I mean, it's Batman, so I don't know. I get it. We just did a Why Not Futurama because they created the Futurama quote unquote Lost Adventure, which is the video game. And yeah, it was watchable, but you also just had to understand what you're seeing and watch it with a different lens because it's cutscenes from a video game.
Yeah.
All right, next message from our pal Ryan Lauer. It says, hey guys, I was watching some animated Batman recently and it got me thinking. Batman the Animated Series, The Batman, and Batman Brave and the Bold were all series with standalone episodes with an occasional two-parter. The underrated Where the Batman was more of a serialized series and it didn't last as long. When it comes to animated Batman series, do you think it works better as standalone episodes or one cohesive story? What do you think? And what do you want the upcoming Caped Crusader series to be? Just a random thought while watching. Take care, gentlemen. Thank you, Ryan. Always good to hear from you. And Ryan's got his own Batman show, the Batman Book Club. If you're looking for more comic book content, you can check that out. But what do you guys think? Do you prefer your Batman animation to be standalone episodes, or would you rather like it serialized? And what do you want for the new show? Brendan?
I guess it depends on the story they're telling. I think at face value, my personal preference would be one and dones. Just because I do like the ability with, the series that he mentioned of, if I'm in the mood, just being able to sit down and put on a random episode, and enjoying it and skipping between seasons and just essentially hitting shuffle, if that was something you could do. I love that. But if you're going to give me a really cool long form story, I mean, I'm down for seeing that as well. That's sort of what television is now. Like it's sort of that binge. They want to get you from one episode to the next. So yeah, I would just hope if it is long form that it's a story that can incorporate as many villains and characters as possible. Because I think sometimes you lose that with, a long form story because it focuses on a couple, whereas the one and dones, you can have as many as you want, essentially.
Yeah. Jamie, what do you think?
Well, the first thing I'll do is direct your attention to our pals Michael and Scotty over at From Pencils to Pixels, because they actually had a conversation in an episode, not the most recent one that just got released, but I believe the last one, where they talked about how they didn't want to produce things that weren't like a one and done episode because of syndication.
Syndication, yeah. I heard that. Mm-hmm.
So, it just makes things more cohesive in that respect. I think either one has its advantages and disadvantages. I mean, obviously with the long form, single story traveling through a season or several episodes or what have you, you get a much more detailed and in-depth perspective for it, and it can be really good at doing it that way. But also the adverse side to that is if you're running a 22 minute episode and you're just telling one story and you're done, it really forces you to get down to the meat of the story and not have any fat to trim said and done. I mean, it just makes you work in a more creative fashion. And, sometimes it may be disadvantageous in that you have to maybe cut out a little detail here and there. We've had some criticisms over animated series and Batman Beyond, and that, I wish this would have got fleshed out a little better, or I wish this one would have been a two-parter. So I think either has pluses and minuses. I think my preference really leans more toward, like what Brendan was saying, having that one and done where I can put on a random episode and not have to worry about catching another one later or something like that. We have so much binge format stuff to watch with these streaming services now that sometimes I guess it would be a little bit of a welcome relief not to have to worry about what's coming next and just be there and done,
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that longer serialized storytelling works with certain shows. Stranger Things, Brendan and I just talked about that. Game of Thrones, there are certain shows and certain stories that the serialized format works, and it works great, and it is very bingeable. For Batman animated series, no. I want standalone episodes. In fact, I think that the serialized storytelling is what hurt a lot of the CW superhero shows. That's what started annoying me about The Flash, because it was like, instead of exploring a lot of the Flash's world and a lot of different characters and a lot of different villains, instead it was like, oh, we just decided this one villain is going to be the villain all season long. And it just forgive the metaphor, it felt like it was running in place for so much of that time, because it was like we had nowhere to go because you had to stretch this one story throughout the entire season. Whereas like the first season
they've got 22 episodes.
Yeah. Where like
nuts.
the first season of The Flash is one of the best seasons of superhero TV, because there was an overarching story, but there were still standalone stories within it. That is what I preferred. And I and especially when it comes to animation, and especially Batman animation, I don't want one story stretched out throughout the entire season, because I want to explore a lot of characters, a lot of places, a lot of scenarios. Give me standalone episodes. You can still have elements of an overarching story that then, come and go throughout the episodes, but it also makes it a lot easier to rewatch it. I'm much less likely to rewatch something serialized because you can't just pick an episode. You want to watch the whole darn thing, as opposed to Batman the Animated Series, where I'm like, I really feel like watching Almost Gotham, and I could just watch that one episode. So yeah, I'm a big fan of standalone, especially when in this circumstance, and I hope that's what the Cape Crusader is.
Side note to this, when the DC Universe, as we knew it, kind of shut down and shifted toward HBO Max with all the TV and movies and stuff, there was a lot of things that were on DC Universe that did not, for whatever reason, make it to HBO Max. Mm-hmm. I am pleased to report that recently I have found out that some of those shows, if not all of them, like the 1990 Flash series, the Birds of Prey series, the 1940s Batman serials, the black and white serials, are on Tubi. So for anybody looking for that stuff that doesn't maybe want to buy it and just, check it out, you can go on Tubi and watch it for free. You just have to deal with a couple commercials here and there.
All right. Sweet. Thanks for the tip. All right. Next message is from Lloyd Wabbit. It says, hey, to my favorite Bat fam. As each passing month in our country brings bleak desolation, I really haven't been able to consume any new anxiety-inducing content, instead searching for comfort watches. Surprisingly enough, my latest comfort watch discovery for me has been Smallville. I'm 2 seasons in, and while the shadow of the nefarious sex cult hangs over the show like a diabolical, violently wet fart, I'm really enjoying the show. The Lex Clark dynamic is the real highlight, as well as the development of John and Martha's core values as parents, as their benevolent influence shapes their adopted son. What are your thoughts and experiences with Smallville, and will this continue to be a satisfying watch? On the topic of non-Bat related content, what are some of your other favorite sans Batman superhero shows? Mine would be Legends of Tomorrow, Green Lantern the animated series, and Superman the animated series. Love you all. F Nazis, Lloyd Wabbit. Thanks, Lloyd. So, Smallville, rewatching Smallville. I mean, funny you should mention this because they just announced that Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum are doing a Smallville rewatch podcast.
I was just about to mention that too, yeah.
Yeah, so I have not rewatched Smallville since it ended, but I think I might as I follow along with the podcast. I think that would be really fun because for me, I loved Smallville. I loved it. It certainly has its highs and its lows. Some of those lows are really low, but I still loved the journey. I thought that Tom Welling was such a great Clark, Michael Rosenbaum was such a great Lex, and Erica Durance is still in contention as my favorite Lois. She's just amazing. So even when the stories were not always great, the cast and the characters were so great that I really loved that show. So yeah, it would be fun to rewatch it. And I, gotta kind of put the Chloe stuff off to the side and just kind of leave it there. But yeah, I think I might rewatch it and listen to the podcast at the same time. Jamie, Smallville?
I really enjoyed the show. As you said, it certainly has the highs and lows. I think probably, and I won't give anything away for people who haven't watched it, I think about up into the 4th or maybe even 5th season, I thought it was really consistently solid and good. After that, they got a little wacky here and there, but I think they came back around real nice. The introduction to some of the new characters, even some of the things that they do a little bit differently than what you may have read in comics as far as familiarity are interesting, if not fantastic. I enjoyed the show, and even my wife liked a lot of what she saw in that show. So, take that for what it's worth. Anybody who's ever seen me complain, my wife can kill anything for me, and she actually enjoyed watching that. I watched that when Netflix still mailed discs to people. That's how I watched it. Yeah.
Wow.
But no, it's a good, solid show, and I'm glad people are still appreciating it. And that rewatch podcast, that sounds like a really fun and intriguing thing. I don't know if I'm going to rewatch 10 seasons of it with a podcast, but I might check it out and see what's going on there.
That's become this new trend, is cast members from old series doing these rewatch podcasts. But I think it's a really fun trend. I've been listening to The Real Brady Bros. It's Barry Williams and Christopher Knight, who are Greg and Peter. They're rewatching the Brady Bunch and talking about the episodes, and I've been having a blast with it. So Smallville, I think that's really fun too.
I'd be interested to see how on topic they're able to stay, because I haven't listened to a lot, but for a while I listened to the Scrubs rewatch podcast.
Scrubs one?
Yeah.
I love Scrubs. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, but I had to stop listening to that show because it's like an hour-long episode once or twice a week, and they spend all of about 2 or 3 minutes talking about the episode, and the rest of the time is them just talking about random
Just
stuff
hanging
that has
out.
nothing to do with it. Yeah.
It's
is
like when you
fine,
and I
guess,
talk
but-
nothing about pumpkins instead of Batman.
Yeah, but I mean, if we start doing Holy BatCast episodes that are an hour long and 57 of those minutes are Pumpkin and 3 minutes is Batman, that's probably not the best for our listeners. So anyway,
I like a challenge.
as far as non-Batman superhero content for shows right now, because fresh on the brain, I'm going to say my 2 favorites are probably Invincible and The Boys.
Yeah, those are both great choices. Brandon, what about you? Yeah, like non-Batman related superhero shows.
Well, I'll just say too with Smallville, like it was one that I did follow when it first started airing over here in 2002, but it was hard to keep track of after a few years because it switched networks and then it kept switching time slots, and yeah, I did watch it religiously till about the end of season 4. And then didn't watch it for the longest time, and a friend of mine bought me the box set for Christmas, the 2012, and just before Man of Steel came out, I kind of went back and watched all of it in one hit, and it's a good, for a show that lasted 10 seasons, it does have its ups and downs, but it was a solid superhero show. I did enjoy it. In terms of other non-Batman superhero shows that I was hardcore into the Arrowverse that first couple of years. Like seasons 1 and 2 of Arrow, I still think are some of the best seasons of superhero television. I mean, you talk about the sex cult hanging over it. Well, this one's a bit different. It's more the political nature hanging over it. But I still have a soft spot for Lois and Clark. You know, I mean, that was the Superman of my childhood. I do really enjoy that show, and it's something I'll still pop on every so often just to watch a random episode now and again. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you guys with The Boys. Fantastic superhero TV show.
How's the season over already? I was like, really?
I
Wait.
know.
I felt like it just started. So I'm like, oh, no, I gotta wait. But yeah, I agree with you guys. The Boys
Since you guys have Stranger Things fresh on the brain, how about the fact that the final episode of Boys season 3 and the final episode of Stranger Things season 4 are damn near the same episode? We can talk more about that after we're done recording.
I'll have to think about that.
You can. I'll be going to bed. It's 12:30 in the morning here now.
Slacker.
Yeah, so non-Batman, I mean, one that we've talked about a lot on this show, Young Justice. I love Young Justice, and yeah, Batman occasionally pops in, but it's mostly not Batman. But it's a DC Universe show, and I adore it. Yeah, The Boys. I love The Boys. I still love the Flash series from 1990. I think it's one of those big heartbreaks that it only lasted one season, but it's a great season. That's a show I really love. I agree about Legends of Tomorrow. Like, it's funny, as the Arrowverse went on, I lost more and more interest, but Legends I always really enjoyed because of how different it was. And I think part of it is because those episodes were a little more standalone. Like, each episode was very different than the one that came before, and I think that helped a lot in keeping my interest. So I really enjoyed that one too. Doom Patrol, I love Doom Patrol.
Improved.
Oh, Jesus. Superman and Lois. Neither of us have mentioned. None of us have
Superman and
mentioned that.
Lois, yeah.
That show's tremendous.
It's great.
And Stargirl is another one.
Stargirl's great. Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow, strangely enough, vastly improved after Rip Hunter kind of went away.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, no, lots of great stuff. And like I said, the first couple seasons of The Flash, the Grant Gustin one, I thought were really good. But again, I think they just got in their own way with being like, one story, 23 episodes, and it just got exhausting. All right, next message is from Rich Wood. It says, hey guys, I'm continuing to go through your entire history, listening to all the new shows, knocking off the oldest, and jumping around to others. Recently, I listened to one episode where you reviewed The Dark Knight Rises, and another episode where a listener asked a question about Batman's most humanizing moments, and I immediately felt the moment between Jim Gordon in Batman and The Dark Knight Rises, right before he flies away with the bomb, was right at the top. Without actually telling him thank you, Batman thanks Jim for putting that coat around him long ago on the night of his parents' murder. From that moment till the second the credits roll might be some of the most emotional moments of any movie that I've seen. Also, though I've heard you say that Gary Oldman was probably the best version of Jim on film, I've not heard an episode yet that you expanded on that. I feel like he, with Nolan's help and giving him more of a part in all three films, took Jim Gordon to another level. He and Batman's relationship goes through so much, and that last moment that they have is so emotional as a result. Thanks for doing what you do. 100 episodes down, 253 to go. Rich. All right, Rich. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it and appreciate the input. We've talked about that moment before. We're going to probably talk about it again very soon because in just, 2 weeks is the 10th anniversary of The Dark Knight Rises. And you know what happens when an anniversary comes down the line. We usually do a commentary. So I have a hunch that might be coming soon. I will just say this. I feel like that moment, I love the intent. I don't love the execution. I feel like the line is a little awkward and Bale seems to be just trying to get it out. And it's like, it's so wordy that to me, I just, that the moment for me never works the way I think it was intended. I know it works better for other people. Obviously for you it does. But for me, I just think the line needed a little finessing. It was, a hero can be anyone, even someone who puts a coat around someone's shoulder to show them that the world. It's just too much. And he's trying to get it out so fast. I just felt like for me, it didn't quite connect the way they wanted it to.
Makes me think of John Bealey, rest his soul, his reaction to that, the Bruce Wayne. And remember that used to really give him the shits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but your point, I mean, and we have mentioned in the past, I do think that Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon is one of the VIPs of that trilogy. And I think that it's probably my favorite version of Gordon, especially in the first two films. In the third film, much like a lot of the stuff in the third film, they felt the need to like take him off the board, which I think is odd. But yeah, his Jim Gordon, I think is one of the very best portrayals of that character. And I love his relationship with Batman through the trilogy. I think it's awesome.
Agreed.
Jamie, anything to add to that?
No, I feel like that discussion is going to get a lot deeper in a couple of weeks. So. I can save it for then. But yeah, I think I'm an Oldman fan anyway. So, I mean, having him as Jim Gordon was a big plus anyhow.
Yeah. And it's so against type, and he's so damn good. You know?
When is he not good?
Exactly. He's always good. But like to play the everyman is so not Gary Oldman. It's not what you expect from Gary Oldman. And he still nails it because he's Gary Oldman. All right, we got one last email here. It's from Dave Chambers again. I think we had another one from him. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast. I was catching up on the show yesterday while driving, and I was listening to the Gotham Knights trailer episode. While I've not watched the trailer, the discussion around it got me thinking. Another Batman-less television show. Why? Superman has had great success on the big screen and the small screen, but WB has kept Batman relegated to live action only theatrically. What gives? If shows like The Flash and Arrow could work for TV, I'm sure Batman could as well. Any thoughts? Dave Chambers." Thanks, Dave. Brendan has some very strong feelings on this, so I'm going to let you go first. I heard you scoff as I was reading it. You were like, oh.
No, it was the one he was like, why? And my reaction was just like, yes, that's what we're all thinking. Why? That's what I was reacting to. I agree with everything he said, and I think we said as much when we discussed it. I on one hand, I do understand the whole, Batman makes them a shitload of money, so put him on the big screen. But, we are in a world where it does, people are going to consume all of it, and no one's going to be confused that, oh, this one's on TV, this one's on the big screen. It doesn't matter. Just do it. Just make a good quality Batman TV show.
Jamie, any thoughts?
I think this is my own theory. I don't know. I think they feel like holding their cash cow in reserve for basically just big screen events makes it more effective and gets some kind of box office boost for it, versus if it's on TV every week, it may not have that kind of draw. I don't agree with that philosophy or think it's anywhere near right, but I, for some reason, feel like that's why it's gone the way it has. But hopefully this changes sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think you guys both hit on it. I really do think that's the reason, is with Superman, his big screen movies have been middlingly successful. They haven't hit a home run with Superman since Superman 2 in 1980. Man of Steel certainly made money. I'm not saying it didn't, but it wasn't the grand slam that they wanted or were expecting. Superman Returns certainly wasn't either. So I think because Superman has had more muted success in theaters, that they feel more open to letting him be on the TV as well. Whereas Batman has been money in the bank in movie theaters since 1989. Even Batman and Robin, while it underperformed, wasn't an out-and-out flop, which is something a lot of people don't realize. Like, it still made a little bit of money. It just wasn't, what they were used to at that point. But I think just because Batman is their crown jewel theatrically, that they're worried about diluting it by having it available, quote unquote, for free at home. And so what they do instead is they dilute it by having a bunch of TV shows that are kind of Batman shows without going full Batman. So I do feel like they're maybe missing the forest through the trees, but I also kind of understand what the rationale is they want to keep true Batman unadulterated for the big screen. That's my take. All right, well, that's it. We're going to close the Wayne Manor mailbox. As always, a pleasure. Thank you guys for writing in. We appreciate it. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. But that's where we're going to wrap up this episode. Gents, always a pleasure. Thanks for spending your Sunday morning or Sunday evening, as it were, talking Batman.
Monday morning now.
Okay, drama queen. You took the day off. Sleep in tomorrow. You'll be fine. Anyway, Jamie, thanks as always. Tell our friends where they could find you.
I'm on Twitter at BatRaider3960. I am on Letterboxd at my name, and you can find me on this show more often than not, I guess.
All right. Very true. Brendan?
You can find me on Twitter at Lowy007. You can find me in the Real Fans group and on the Real Fans podcast.
Yeah, just last night, me and Brendan had a nice little chat about Stranger Things 4. So if you guys are also caught up in the Stranger Things hype and you want to hear me and Brendan talk about it, go check out Real Fans for Real Movies, the latest episode of that. That was fun.
It was good. Yeah, good fun.
It was good fun. And of course, 2 minutes after we stopped recording, we're like, oh, we forgot to mention this, and we forgot to mention this, and we forgot to mention this. But that's just the way it goes.
Well, yeah. I would have reminded you had you not scheduled it when I already had something going on. So
well, maybe don't have a life. Maybe just be sitting around and waiting for podcast invites.
I obviously should be doing that, shouldn't I?
Anyway, and then yes, please also, as we mentioned earlier, go give Carl a follow on Instagram or on Twitter, BalletBat1989. And again, a big old thank you to Carl for joining us today. But that will do it for this episode of Holy BatCast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for downloading the show. Please do subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you love the show and you want to help support us, but for free, all you got to do is leave a very nice review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. We would appreciate that. Visit holybatcast.com or find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. If you got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, again, that is holybatcast at rf4rm.com. A big thank you to Gaurav Venkateswar. He created our theme music. His work can be found at gvtunes.com. And don't forget, if you're going to do some online shopping this week, go see what they've got for you at manscaped.com. Get that bush under control. But if you're going to make a purchase, please use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. But that'll do it. On behalf of Jamie and Brendan, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. Okay, does Brendan need to go to bed now? Do we need to talk to Wayne?
And I'm freezing too.
It's also it's so weird. It's so winter. We would totally move there and hang out, but I just can't. I can't have summer in the winter and winter in the summer, man.
I know. I get it. You get used to it, I guess.